this computer. All right. Well, good morning, ladies. I'm delighted to have you here. Michele Molitor, and this is Wonder Women Unite for March 17th, 2017. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I started off with a big green flower in my hair for the call, and I'm like, no, that looks really stupid. So I took it out. I'm like, I'll share my inner green with everyone today. But let's have everybody check in and see where you guys are at. And then today what we're going to be talking about is finding your reframe. You know, we all have those inner fears, those inner conversations that we have with ourselves about any numerous things. And using some cool new, or not necessarily new, but some ways to help turn that around so you get out of your own way and can get back onto doing what there is to do and not be stopped by those fears, those trepidations, those worries and doubts. So we'll get to that and more in a minute. But who is here on the call with us today? Angie?
Angie Rakeup.
And Angie's from Atlanta. Angie's a very dear friend of mine and is an amazing financial planner and a little spitfire. And it's a mutual love fest. So there.
There you go.
And then we have Meryl. Meryl, where you're hailing from? Ba-ba-da.
I had to unmute myself there. I'm from Point Richmond, California, which is in the Bay Area.
Fabulous.
And I am a coach. I coach professionals on stepping up and shining in their in-person presentations or webinars and help them craft their message and step into their own confidence.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you. And Lorraine has just joined us.
Hi.
Hi, Lorraine.
Is it very noisy? Because I'm kind of at a bar, and then I remember there was this call.
Great. We've never had a bar on the phone. I love it.
I know. So I'm trying to mute this thing so it doesn't sound too crazy.
All right. Well, Lorraine is joining us from Singapore, and apparently it's nighttime there.
It is. It's let me see. It's almost 1 a.m. though.
Oh wow. Well, you get bonus points for being up and festive for the call. We should have all brought our cocktails for today, haven't we?
Let me try and mute this thing so it doesn't annoy everyone.
Okay, well, just unmute and pipe in, when you feel the need, Lorraine. But we're delighted to have you here on the call. So, and then others will hopefully join us as we go. Well, first and foremost, just a big shout out to all of our new members. Over the last month, we have 10 new members, and we're up to 154 women in the Wonder Women Unite group. Our latest 2 additions, let's see, one's from Spain and another one's from Australia. So the global circle is widening. I'm so excited. So, and a couple of things before I forget to tell you, we're going to be having our first expert hour call next Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Let me just double check that before I stick my foot in my mouth. Wait a minute. Let's get to the right day. Yes. We're going to be having our expert hour with Mary Turos. So hopefully she'll be joining us on the call today. And she's going to send me an overview of what she's going to be talking about, which I will send out to everybody. So essentially the expert hour calls are going to be an additional call once a month where one of our members shares some of their expertise. So say, for example, Angie might do a call on financial planning for women, or Meryl might do a expert hour call on how to bring your best self to your presentations. So for everybody who's listening, if you folks have a topic that you'd like to share, with the group. Essentially, the way it'll work is I'll be facilitating the call, and then so next week Mary will be, doing her thing and sharing some cool stuff about neuroscience and her area of expertise. So I'm really looking forward to the addition of this, and I'm going to mute you for a second, Lorraine. Love you, but we're still going to mute you. And so these calls, our Wonder Woman calls, are always the third Friday of the month at 9:30 a.m. Pacific, and the expert hour calls are going to be the fourth Friday of the month at 9 a.m. Pacific. So there's Mary. Were your ears burning? We were just talking about you.
Yeah, I'm not feeling real great, and I couldn't get on. I think it was my brain though. So I'm here.
Okay, great.
Probably gonna mute myself for a little bit.
If Mary, do you want to tell everybody a little? I was just talking about the expert hour calls.
Sure.
Do you want to tell everybody a little bit about what you'll be talking about next week?
So basically, when I'm working with clients, I find that what I do is I'm a neurobehaviorist, and I find that a lot of my clients complain that they don't have enough time to get everything that they want done. And what I've actually found is that we're just not very good at setting our own boundaries and the time management piece. But there's a neurobiological reason for that, and it's based in technology. So I'm going to run through the reasons why our distracted minds are distracted, how it affects cognitive ability, and some kind of things that we can work on to at least be aware and work on managing our time a little bit better with technology. So I call it defragging the brain, in the sense that I think we do have time to get the important stuff done. It's just a matter of where our brains allocate it. So that's it in a very long, twisted nutshell.
Love it. Thank you so much. Well, we're really excited to have you be our first expert hours call. And if you will just shoot me a short email with an overview of that, then I'll send it out to the whole group.
Okay.
So, and Mary's calling in from the East Coast, in Connecticut?
Maryland.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I have a terrible memory.
Close,
So
yeah.
I have an excellent memory, and it's getting better and better every day. Thank you. I got to use my own mind tricks, right? So, well, great. Thank you. And so for today, what we're going to be talking about is finding the reframe of those negative conversations that we're having with our heads. So you just saw me catch myself like, oh, I have a terrible memory. And like, oh no, my memory's getting stronger and stronger every day. Right? And why I did that is because our brains naturally go to the most well-worn groove, the most well-worn neural pathway and our thought processes, right? And if we have a negative thought that we're constantly telling ourselves, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm stupid, I'm this, I'm that, whatever that is, right? It becomes a very well-worn groove. So the way to overcome that is to just create a new well-worn path, right? So start telling yourself the story that you want to be believing versus the one that is not lifting you up. Excuse me. So my question to you all is, and I'm going to open up the lines, what are some of the negative conversations that you're having with yourself, and how are they getting in your way of your success? Anyone? Any particular themes that come up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the overriding theme for me, especially early in my career, is I don't really know what I'm doing, and I'm bluffing my way through all of this, because a lot of what I do is based on research, and it was kind of an untapped niche in the market. So people thought I was, selling a lot of hoo-ha. So until a lot of the science came around, I would get up there for presentations, and I would feel like I was 8 years old, in front of hundreds of people. And sometimes I would have a message to my brain like, why are they listening to me? So there's some of and when I talk to some of my female, very smart people that you would never think would have this go through their head, it seems to be a running theme for everybody, including men. I shouldn't just say it's only women, but I think it's predominantly in women, because somehow we, especially when we're trying to do something and break from the traditional societal accepted molds, I think there's a lot of that self-doubt that we have to override and speak up, speak up even when we're not completely sure of where we stand professionally.
Mm-hmm.
So,
no, those are great points. Meryl, I'm curious your perspective on this, since you coach people on presenting, right? What are some of the common themes that you see either for yourself or in some of your clients?
Well, I think that one of the things that hits all women is what's called imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to recommend a great book about that topic that I recommend to my friends and clients. And it's called The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women by Valerie Young.
The Secret Thoughts of Successful
The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women by Valerie Young. And she talks about the imposter syndrome, that women are so, it's so ingrained that we don't step into our own selves. We don't take credit for our own, we don't acknowledge our achievements. We always feel like, well, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Or one false move and I'm out. In fact, she quotes many famous women, and like Meryl Streep, who's now had 20 Oscar nominations, once spoke in front of a group and said, this next gig is the one where I'm always sure they're going to find out I don't really know how to act, So that there's this level of feeling that you're an imposter, that we don't deserve recognition, that somehow we've stumbled into whatever we actually have succeeded at, that makes us always feel like we're frauds on some level and that we're about to be found out. And so trying to find your true authority in what you really do know, because so much of what women bring to the table is devalued in our cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of stepping into your power and realizing how much you do have to offer just by being a human being navigating through your life successfully. But then to add all the expertise that all of us have added on to that. So kind of stepping into your power and feeling that you deserve to be in the spotlight and that you have things to share, is part of that mindset that will help. But I highly recommend this book. It's a very easy and fascinating and inspiring and helpful read.
Oh, it is recording. Sorry, I'm having a little moment here by myself. Thank you, Meryl. No, that's for sure. There's another great book too. It's out in the garage in my other collection. It's called The Confidence Code, written by Katty Kay and Claire Shepherdson, really well-known international journalists. And they've interviewed world leaders, the Chancellor of Germany and all these, very, very accomplished women, and same thing. They all have that imposter syndrome thing. Eli, what are you talking about? Sorry, my cat's over here meowing at me for some unknown reason. And so, yeah, that is definitely a challenge for a lot of women, because it is that we're trained differently coming up through the ranks, right? Because of just how society is hardwired, unfortunately. And there's a lot of inertia to get beyond that thought process and that feeling that gets in our way and stops us. So before we go into how to create those shifts in our thinking, what are some ways that those thoughts actually stop you? Where does it show up in your everyday that has you second guessing yourself?
Well, I'll jump in. This doesn't happen so much anymore because, you can train yourself out of it. But like you were saying before, Michelle, our brains are kind of hardwired to go to the negative spot. It's just an evolutionary function to protect us. But when those stress hormones get released in the brainstem, they really do block higher order thinking from occurring. You just can't think clearly. And I think sometimes there's just some of that. It's the anxiety. And then I see a lot of my clients who want to avoid or procrastinate because, they're fearful of breaking through that frustration threshold because change, it's uncomfortable. It's uncharted territory. So I think that fear drives a lot of it. The fear of whatever, the fear of success, the fear of failure, the fear of making a fool of yourself, the fear of somebody ridiculing you. I think when you go to that place, there's something that just blocks you from thinking clearly and thinking rationally about your own skill set.
Mm-hmm. And Mary, I'd be curious to get your perspective on this because I totally agree, right? I've been coaching for 16 years now and I've been my own science experiment of like, how do I bust past my own fears and confidence challenges because of the experiences that I went through in corporate America, like flatlined my confidence. And it's taken me years to rebuild it all. But, it's been this like the knowing of I'm almost there. I'm just about there, wherever there was. Right. And trying to figure out it always felt like there was this veil, like I could see through it. I could see the goal just beyond the veil, but I couldn't quite get the veil out of the way, Mm-hmm. And so for folks who are listening, that, as you mentioned, the stress hormones block that higher level thinking. And it's like, we know that we want to create this level of success, right? We'll just use career success as an example, but it could be any numerous things. But that fear of achieving it still mm-hmm. continues to create that veil of, mm-hmm. Not quite reachable. So what have you noticed in your work, and what are some of the ways that you've helped people shift that?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I see a lot is that people have fuzzy goals. They're not, our brains are designed to hyper focus. If you shoot yourself a clear, measurable goal, your brain, and you believe you can truly achieve the goal, your brain will laser focus on that goal, and you'll start slowly shifting your behaviors towards that goal. Mm-hmm. But I think what tends to happen a lot is people don't really know what they want, or they don't really believe they can achieve it. So somebody may say, I want to be CFO of the company by 2019, and here's what I'm going to do to get there, whatever, right? But they don't really believe that they're worthy of, or, they don't have the skill set. There's some, and that needs to be unlocked and crystallized. I see that numerous times. What you think you can achieve, you will achieve. What you believe about yourself. So in grades, if somebody tells you I want to get straight A's, I can get straight A's, but they really feel like they're a B student internally, you're naturally going to lend yourself to behaviors that take you to your internal goal. So that's one piece of it. The other piece is people sometimes don't give themselves credible timelines. They want to do all these amazing things, but they want to do them now. You know what I mean?
What you're talking about, Mary.
Right?
Yeah.
So I want to be at the top of my professional game now. Well, okay, how are you going to do that? So sometimes it's unrealistic goals, but sometimes it's I think it's mostly the self-limiting, doubtful thoughts about oneself that really drive a lot of this. Mm-hmm. And you're right. I mean, the whole purpose of this group, right, is to bring women together and create a good old girls club, because so many of us feel like we're doing this on our own and we're like the weirdos, right, of society. Because if you're driving new industry standards, or you're coming into a corporation that isn't used to having female thought involved, it's a little different, and we need to lean in on each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think groups like this help kind of set that, and I hopefully knock through some of the self-doubt that women often have. But what I like about this group is sometimes we challenge each other too, right? So it's not all kumbaya, like you do what you want to do, and like I've learned, and Michele, I know you've been there in the corporate world. Sometimes you gotta get put on the defensive to really allow yourself to crystallize what it is that you want as your goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it totally makes sense.
And that helps you knock through that threshold, because some people don't want to be challenged. They just want to be told they're great and they can do it and go get them, rah, rah. But when you start challenging their fundamental beliefs about themselves, then you physically see them start to squirm and look around, and that's when you know you have the hook.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Angie, I'm curious, in your position as a financial planner and whatnot, which I would imagine tends to be a more male-dominated profession. How have you overcome some of those barriers to entry? Because for everybody, Angie's in Atlanta, and which is a very southern, good old boys club kind of place. I used to live there. That's where we met. So, thoughts, Angie?
Hey, I'm Angie Rakeup, and this has come up in several different circles lately as we talk about bias in financial services, and the women that get in here that actually do well. And just going back to my first year in business, I was, working hard, and it seemed like when I had my opening meetings, I was not having the same ratios as men in the business. And take into consideration, I was young, I looked younger, I am all of 5 foot tall, and I weigh all of 90 pounds on a big day. Why my ratios weren't what the men's were, that I thought, that the world was biased. And I said that to the owner of our company, and he said, well, Angie, that's the truth. It is. You're not going to change them. What you have to do is change you. We were talking on a national basis about who we, thought was a candidate for Rookie of the Year. And you are the underdog. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put my money on you, and I want you to become Rookie of the Year. And I said, what? And he said, that's the only way you're going to fix this. Because the fix is not in the outside world. The fix is with you. And if that matters to you, it's going to matter in your meetings. If it doesn't matter to you, it will not matter in the meetings. Your statistics and your stuff are your own. And you need to do whatever it is you need to do. Just like a Black person needs to do whatever they need to do. A person with a deformity on their face needs to do whatever they need to do to overcome what the rest of the world is thinking. It's not, the rest of the world is not going to change because the world doesn't wrap around you. And you need to make that. Don't look at anybody else, and don't point your finger at anybody else. And that was early in my career when I learned how to hoist up the big girl panties and go out in the world and, just take the bat, take it back, and take the ball out of the park. And I so indeed made Rookie of the Year, and made it by a very, let's just say, second runner-up was in the dust. But
get it, girl.
There's a whole lot of stuff that, even now, I work in a great office. I have Michele, this is like such an ideal workplace. Integrated Financial Group is a group of independent financial advisors, many of which I've been with the entire 24 years of my career. I mean, we know each other well. We work hard. We have impeccable values. We do a great job. And from being with these high-level people is what has inspired me to make my practice so much better than it ever would have been. There are still people here, men, that, I mean, they're fine that I'm here, but that's about it.
Yes.
I mean, they're like, if I speak up, they listen nicely, and that's about what they do. I mean, they don't throw any rocks, but they certainly don't swing by and grab a hug like other people do.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to accept them and their biases. I have to accept them and their biases because it's not their job to be what I want.
That's a great point. Write that down. That's quote of the day. It's not their job to be what I want.
Yeah. I mean, let people who don't, if you got people who just don't like the team you're marching to or whatever, let them. Don't even slow down a minute and try to convert them.
Right.
Because you are robbing yourself of the next people that you could meet that are on your same wavelength. I don't know if that's the best term or not, but don't waste time to change people. Be nice to them. If you pass them a second time, be nice to them again. Don't even give yourself any bad karma, and don't try to convert somebody. And be really happy when people leave your space. Separation anxiety is a hard thing for me to deal with. And you always think I did something wrong, that somebody left my space. No, I don't. It's not about me. It's about them. Let them go.
And that's a really, really important point that I want to underscore for everybody who's listening, because it took me years to figure that one out, right? You know, I've had relationships in the past, friendly, girlfriend relationships in the past where everything's going along, and all of a sudden one day they went and they just disappeared themselves for reasons unknown. And I'm just like, what happened? And the anxiety of that was rather traumatizing at the time, in a few instances. And
yeah, Michele and I have known each other
long time.
in our 20s. We're in our 20s, and everything, and we were girls, and everything that you felt, just the feelings were so big.
Mm-hmm.
And in a very dynamic group.
Mm-hmm.
And like Michele, you're sharing that, and I'm feeling it for you.
Yeah, and it's just like I always came back to what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? Why am I a bad person? All of that was the internal monologue that was going on for me until I finally realized, after coaching and therapy and other things, is that, oh, no, it's not me.
Yeah.
It's them. I got probably the most profound piece of advice I've ever gotten after my then husband, walked out of our marriage after a very brief period of time. And this wise man named Aha, yes, that's his name, Aha, he said to me, as you expand and grow, lower, more negative energies will literally take themselves away because they cannot be in the same space with you. So as I was continuing to expand my thinking and my learning and my growing and raising my vibrational level of my energy physically, my ex-husband couldn't be with it and got too physically uncomfortable and literally took himself away and walked out of our relationship. Reasons unknown at the time. And so it took a lot for me to recognize, oh, okay, that's his stuff, not my stuff, right? And it's a hard lesson to learn that I kept getting until I finally got it. Like, oh, okay, I'm just going to keep doing me and working on me, and not to say that I ignored some of the reasons or causes of what created that breakup, but it gave me more information to learn more about myself and increase my emotional intelligence and create a deeper understanding and alignment of who I am with my higher self and my values and my purpose in the world. So I look at those kinds of instances as a blessing in disguise, perhaps in hindsight, but really helping us to learn more about who we are and who we want to be in the world, right? And so when we come across those instances that really have us start to question ourselves and am I good enough and what did I do wrong and all of those things, that's where we need to catch ourselves and like, oh, wait a minute, and noticing that thought process that we're having and start to change the channel, as I like to say, right? So we've got that neural pathway that we've beaten down in our brains, like, oh, you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you're not lovable, you're not something, 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 whatever word you want to put on it, right? And so in my years of trying to figure myself out and overcome some of these challenges for myself so I could be a better coach, I've discovered all sorts of different ways of doing that. You know, there's therapy, there's coaching, there's tapping, there's emotional release techniques, there's rapid eye movement therapy. There's all sorts of different ways to get in there and start to rewire your brain. And I'd love to hear from you all some of the different ways that you have used to change the channel in your brain from a negative thought to a positive thought. And then I can share some of the things that I've discovered that have worked really well and really quickly. So who has some thoughts they want to share on that, given we have lots of professionals here in the room?
Well, this is Mel, and I'll jump in. So I studied life coaching with a positive psychology foundation, and I learned a great tool from the guy who actually started positive psychology, Martin Seligman. And he calls it three things that went well and why. And it's a very powerful tool. It's actually been used to help get clinically depressed patients off of meds.
Wow.
And the idea is it's a practice that at the end of the day, you write down three things that it's different than a gratitude practice. So don't go there. It's three things that went well and why. So you have to write down, so some of the examples might be, I got to the meeting, a really important meeting on time today, and I was really prepared. Why? Because I gave myself plenty of time in the morning to get ready. I got there early so I didn't have to worry about parking. I was able to get there and have my water, so that something went well and you know why. Sometimes it's self-perpetuated. Sometimes it's not. One of the examples in the study was somebody said, my sister gave birth to a healthy baby boy. And the why is because she took really good care of herself throughout her pregnancy. You know, and she really did all of the proper checkups and took good care of herself. And she had good medical care. So it's not always you. Or it could be, I made it to the meeting on time because some really nice person let me in line ahead of them because they could tell that I was stressed about getting somewhere on time. But normally it will be self-perpetuating. The idea they believe is that two things. As you do this every night, and as we all probably know, it takes 21 days to establish a practice into a habit. Your brain begins to scan the horizon of your life during your day to find things that are going well. And as I think Michele mentioned earlier, we are hardwired to look for the negative. And it's, why we survive to this day, that our ancestors were always scanning the horizon for predators or dangers. So that is what our brains are hardwired to look for. But when your brain knows that it's going to be getting this pop quiz at the end of the day of things that went well, as you go through your day, it begins to scan for things that are going well, for the positive. So that's one big reframe that takes place. The second part that's very empowering is the and why. As you begin to see, you're not only looking for the things that are going well, but you're beginning to make the connections between behaviors that you have control over and the outcome going well, so that it is empowering. And that's, I think, why they think that it's such a powerful tool with depression, because depression, one of the hallmarks of depression is a sense of powerlessness. Mm-hmm. So you reframe your brain to look for the positive, and you make the connections of how you can make those positive outcomes happen by your behavior. So that's my suggestion.
Beautiful. I've not heard of that one. Thank you, Meryl.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have some talented tools for reframing?
Well, I don't do quite as elaborate a plan as that positive psychology. I don't do that with myself. But what I do is if somebody shoots me a message of thanks, or somebody's updating me with something very positive, I tend to capture that and jot it down in a journal or print it out and paste it in my journal, because we all know we're going to have crappy days where it just doesn't click for whatever reason. We don't break through. We're not able to help everybody. And those are the days you can start feeling down and start questioning, like, what could I have done more of, or what didn't. And a lot of times it's not, like we were talking about, it's not about you, it's about something else going on in somebody's life. So I think so if somebody says something nasty to you or complains, it's always helpful to reframe it by looking at all the people you did help, and that you did reach out to, and you did help them get to their goals achieved. So, it's very simple, but on the down days, it does definitely help. And the other thing that sometimes I'll do is just, if possible, I'll take a walk. If I'm in between appointments and I'm near a park, I'll take a 10-minute walk or a 15-minute walk through a park and just kind of look at the trees and stuff, just to change my environment to a much more relaxing one. Because sometimes I think we ruminate. We can change our environment. Sometimes that goes away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To add to what you said, Mary, I like that, capturing the positive feedback that you get randomly throughout the day from people. But also if you are, caught in a negative spin, taking time to get present with yourself, like, in this moment, really just like feel your butt in your chair, right? Or touch your fingers together to really like tune back in, get out of your head and get back into your body. And taking a moment to think about, okay, well, what am I grateful for in this moment, right? Because your brain, as you said, your brain likes to spin on negative things. So if you stop and pause and like, okay, get here right now, what am I grateful for? Wow. Okay. Well, I'm really grateful that I have a house and I have a roof over my head, and I have food in the refrigerator, and, really simple, basic needs. Because then it will quiet that spin that our survival brain is like, oh, something's wrong, gotta run, and create what's creating that angst. Right. And then you can expand it even further, and look at more and more things that you're grateful for. So similar to Meryl's suggestion, keeping a gratitude journal. So taking time at the end of the day to write out what are some of the things that you're grateful for that occurred that day. Because it's another way to start wiring your brain to look for the positives.
And to piggyback on that comment, a lot of times it's the language we use with ourselves. So I don't know, I'm drawing a blank on the psychologist who has the studies on this, but if you replace, and it's a Norman Vincent Peale kind of, attitude, but if you replace the phrase, I have to do this, with I get to do this, instead of saying, oh man, I have to work a 13-hour day today and it's a beautiful day and I'd rather be outside. instead of framing it that way, maybe framing it, I get to work 13 hours a day, or I get to go out and work with people all day. Sometimes it could be as simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing that I've found to be really powerful, and you can access this stuff online in a myriad of different ways, and I can put in some resources into the Facebook page, is two different things. One that I've used is subliminal recordings. So you can get some binaural beat music with subliminal stuff that has, positive affirmations about different things. And you can, the music is just, benign. There's no words to it. And there's versions of it that you can listen to during the day while you're working. And there's other stuff that you can listen to while you're sleeping. But the subtext, the words, which are just below, auditory level, but your brain still hears it, is a myriad of various positive psychology, positive affirmations and thought processes, as a way to burn those new neural pathways. Because as your brain continues to hear it, your subconscious continues to hear it, because your subconscious is never asleep. It's always on. And I've, in the past, when I've been really stressed and I was waking up in the middle of the night, for example, I would just put my earbuds in and turn on one of those, right? Which would allow me to turn off my thinking brain and fall back asleep, knowing that there was still good stuff going in versus the rant that was happening that had woken me up, right?
Are those by HemiSync? There's a company that's been around for a long time that mimics different brain, like you wear it in earbuds or in stereo, but it's the same thought. I have one
exactly.
It's great.
Exactly. You can, there's all sorts of research about, you get the binaural beats and I've actually I have some of my guided meditations has some of this in it, because it turns your brain, there's 4 different brain frequencies, theta, beta, and I'm going to forget them. Help me out here, Mary.
Alpha waves.
Alpha, beta, theta, and delta.
On the last one too.
Right. And so theta is that kind of in between dreamy state. That's where your brain is most impressionable. And so having some of that in those subliminal recordings helps, for lack of a better way of saying, opening up your subconscious to take in the information. Right?
I'll be right out. Thank you.
And another thing that I found to be also taking that up a notch is hypnotherapy tapes. And hypnotherapy is another way to take you down into that theta state. So I call them meditation naps. So I'll sit on the couch and I'll plug in. One woman that I found to be really tremendously successful is Marissa Peer. She's a well-known hypnotherapist, and she's British, so she has this lovely voice that you love to listen to, right? And thanks, Angie. Bye. The hypnotherapy process is a way of taking you down into that theta state, but you're still consciously aware. And again, there's more of that reprogramming of your subconscious. And there's, a variety of different topics, but the one that I think is most powerful is just simply the thought that I am enough, right? So many of us get caught in a place of not feeling good enough. And this comes back to that imposter syndrome we were talking about earlier on the call. Oh, I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not talented enough. I'm not all that compared to, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we can rewire our brains to stand in that place of, oh, I am enough, I'm pretty damn good, as a matter of fact, right? And not from a place of ego. And I think that's the hard place for us as women, particularly. We think if we are enough, we're being egoic, but we're not. It's just a matter of standing in our value. And that shift alone, for me personally, has made a huge difference.
And talking, whoever brought up a comment the first time that you're not going to change other people,
Angie,
they have to change themselves. By you doing that and standing your ground or whatever you want to call it, you start to see a shift in people's reaction to you. So you're not going to change other people. They have to change themselves. But by you holding firm to who you are and your values, I think over time, very slowly, the pendulum can start to swing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I was actually teaching a class last night in San Francisco about how do you build trust. And one of the things that we talked about is you have to, there's a famous quote from Wayne Dyer that says, if you change the way you see things, the things you see change.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And so changing your perception of how you see yourself and how you see others changes your energy, your physiology, literally, and the energy that you emanate out, which then has an impact on how people sense you, consciously or unconsciously, through our mirror neurons. These are our mirror neurons, in case anybody's wondering. I call them our little emotional antennae. But as you change that physically in your body, in your mental state, your energy shifts, which changes that expansion of you. And then people, they have a different sense of you as they come in contact with you, right? And it can be really, really powerful. I like to, I'm all about the science experiments, right? So it's like, oh, what kind of game can I play? How do I want to show up? What's the mental state that I want to have when I walk into this room? And notice what's the impact that it has on people, right? Mm-hmm. I had a teacher, Satyan Raja, once tell me, he's like, you have to own the room. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? And what I've come to realize is it's that owning your own space, standing in your own confidence of who you are and what you bring to the table in a quiet, confident way that just expands your energy out. And so when you walk into the room, people like, wow, they sit up and take notice, not because you said or did anything. It's just by who you're being that feels different and has them take notice, which is, I think, back to Angie's point earlier of, she had to shift who she was being, showing up to have that kind of impact on her clients. Cause she a tiny little thing. She's a little spitfire, right? But she has that really big presence that she's developed over the years, so it makes a huge, huge difference on how other people see you and then react to you, just by starting to make those mental shifts.
Well, it's energy. So the other thing that I found was interesting is when I started, I did some work in sales very early on. And one of the things we had to do cold calling, which I hated doing. I did not, because it's lots of rejection, lots of people. But one of the things that I took away from that is when you answer the phone or you're talking to somebody, you should do it with a smile on your face, because you can hear a smile and enthusiasm over the phone. So when I talk to my clients on the phone, I make sure, first of all, if I can see who it is, if their name shows up and I've been working with them, I greet them with their name, and people really like to hear their name when you're talking to them. So it's an energy. There's an energy to all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that reminded me, another thing I was going to share with everybody is that even if you're having a bad day and you're like, right, and you can pause, get present, and think about what I'm grateful for, and just force yourself to smile
Yeah.
It's like changes your whole dynamic of how you feel. Even if it feels like you're faking it, if you sit with it for a little while, like, oh, okay, I'm going to smile and see what it does, right? But it will change your physiology and how you think about yourself. What was the other thing I was going to share? It's gone, but it'll come back maybe or not. Let's see. I want to check. I'm gonna unmute Lorraine and check in with you. How are you doing out there, Lorraine, in Singapore? And any thoughts you want to add to the conversation we're having based on your perspective? Oh, we might have lost her. Awfully quiet over there. Okay. Well, hi, Lorraine. I hope you're still there. So anyway, well, I hope this was helpful for everyone who's listening in. I really appreciate Mary and Meryl and Angie's, everybody's insights into some of the things that they've done. I know there's a lot of great suggestions and wisdom here for everybody who is tuning into the call. And that's the whole idea here, is we just really want to be able to support each other and helping us each in our own worlds step more and more each day into our own voice and our own power, and creating what we want to create in the world, and having a positive impact. So any other thoughts or questions before we round out the call here in a few minutes?
Michele, I just want to make sure I have your email. Let me write it down again.
Sure, here, I'll put it in the chat box.
Okay, thanks.
Michele@nectarconsulting.com.
Okay.
For anybody who's curious. And yeah, for anybody who's listening, would love to have a virtual coffee with anybody. So if y'all are interested, Mary and I have done this. I've done it with a couple other folks too. Lorraine and I did it. It was really fun. So feel free to email me or ping me on the Facebook group or on the Wonder Woman page, and we can set that up. Because, it's all about building this community and getting y'all's ideas and suggestions for what we can talk about each month and what's going to be beneficial to you, to support you in your growth and your success, and increasing your awesomeness. So here's to more awesomeness. And let's see. So any other thoughts, Meryl?
Well, I was just going to say that I will post the title of that book that I mentioned, and also that 3 things that went well and why exercise on the Facebook page.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Mary, if you have any other ideas or suggestions or tools that you want to post up there, that would be great. I will do the same. And the more tools, the better. I'm like a tool junkie. I'm like, oh, can I have another workshop, please? Right. Okay. Well, before I forget, let's see. Our next call is going to be April 21st, Friday, April 21st at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. And we also have our first expert hour call next Friday at 9 a.m. with our very own Mary Turos here, who's been on the call with us. And I'll be sending out all the call details for that this weekend. So, yeah. And if you're interested in being one of the expert hour featured experts, then just ping me and we'll get that set up. All right?
Sounds good.
All right, ladies. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you on the call and listening to all your wisdom and brilliance that you have to share. I'm very grateful for you and delighted that you all could be here. And Lorraine, thanks for tuning in.
Yep.
There she is. Did you
I
have
am
anything?
here. Sorry, I just got back. So I was just trying to, come back into the conversation.
Sure. Is there anything that you wanted to add before we hop off the call?
No, I think good points though, especially like what you guys do, to kind of take yourself away from all the stresses of life. So that's very good to hear though.
Great. All right. Well, we were delighted to have you here, and I really thank you all for being here, and we'll look forward to having you on the call next month. All right?
Okay.
Have a great weekend. Take care.
All right. Thanks, you guys.
Bye.
Happy St. Pat's Day, and
Oh yeah.
have a great year.
All righty.
Great.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, you guys.
Bye guys.